Okay, this is very exciting. Hello and welcome to another THI webinar. This one is going to be slightly different to, well, anything that we've done before, and I'm really excited about it. Welcome to the HR Agony Aunt. This is Emma, the HR Agony Aunt. But I'm going to hand over to her in a sec to do a little introduction. But for those of you who don't know, or who've never been to one of our webinars, I'm Kashi. I'm the events community and events exec at Happiness Index, and the Happiness Index is a employee engagement and happiness platform, basically on a mission to help make sure that people can thrive at work and that organisations can build thriving cultures. But the main event here, we're all here for Emma. Emma, do you want to do your little introduction?
That was so funny. Like I'm not sure I'm wise enough or like clever enough to I think wise and clever, they're the same thing. So I've just proved my point straight away. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this. It's really exciting. And it's good to try things out. I've worked in HR my whole career, so that's nearly 20 years, although of course I don't look that old. These days I run a membership for women in HR, and I also run an event which is designed to celebrate the profession and make us all feel unstoppable. That's my goal, is to help the HR profession and the individuals within it to feel confident, have sustainable impact, to know their worth, and to go out and to make the big change in the world that our workplaces so very much need. So I'm excited to see what you've got in store for me today and what kind of problems I can help people solve.
Oh, I'm so excited. I've been dying to do something like this for literally since I first started at the Happiness Index, and I was like, right guys, let's keep it fresh, let's do an agony aunt. And they were like, okay, you have to source one though. And I was like, as soon as I saw your TikToks and I saw your videos and Matt sort of told me about you, I was like, Emma must be the agony aunt, like just perfect. So you're all in for a treat here.
Oh, thank you. I'll do my best. I feel like I should be wearing like a knitted cardi though, and like a like a wig. Like I'm so wise and old.
Have like some like my glasses, like the cat eye ones, like perched at the end of your nose like this.
Exactly like that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, well, we'll kick it off with our first sort of confession / dilemma type thing. We've had some people sort of throw in and submit some questions and some dilemmas, of which people in the audience, you are also very welcome to do so. The Q&A chat is live and is functional. So if you want to pop something in anonymously, you are welcome to in real time, and Emma can give us her thoughts. But we'll kick it off with a bit of a juicy one, Emma. We'll kick it off with, Dear Auntie Emma. I've been harboring a secret crush on a colleague in my department. It's distracting me from my work, and I'm not sure how to handle it without making things awkward. What should I do?
Goodness me. This is like, do HR people have crushes on people? I don't know. Clearly they do.
Oh my gosh.
Have you
When
ever
we find out teachers are real people?
I don't know if I've ever had a crush on anyone at work other than when I was like in my 20s. There's so many like facets to this. It's like what position are they in? You know, are they like head of HR, or are they like an HR admin? Why do I think it's more okay for an HR admin to have a crush on someone at work than someone in a senior role? I don't know what that.
Probably because of like power dynamic, I guess.
Maybe the power dynamic. Gosh, yeah. How do you like distract your mind when you're at work? I think you just got to get on doing your work, right? I don't know, writing your strategy, getting out there with people. It's really when you've got a crush on someone, it kind of does weird things to your body, doesn't it? And it makes you just all a bit distracted and
100% makes you a bit loopy.
Makes you a bit loopy. So have you ever had a crush on someone, Ashley? at work?
I have had a crush on someone at work before.
How did you distract yourself from it?
I what did I do? I was really lucky that I was working hybrid already. So I was just a bit more conscious about making sure that my office days did not fall in line with their office days. I
So
was
you
like,
just avoided.
I kind of avoided a bit, to be honest. Yeah. I was like, luckily they weren't in my department. So it was like I didn't have to work with them that much. But yeah, I'm I'm terrible with a crush. Like I'm loopy as hell. So I just avoid. I was like, no, Kashi, you need to just let this burn out. Just let it happen. Just let it go away. It'll fade in a couple of weeks. Like it's fine.
Yeah, this is it's such an interesting thing when you're talking about HR professionals, because I know when I've I'm not in an in-house HR role anymore, but when I was in an in-house HR role, you kind of don't know who you can be friends with
Mm,
because or you feel like you can't necessarily be friends or establish relationships with people because I'll put it really bluntly, you never know what you're going to have to do to them. Like, you
yeah,
don't know who's going to be redundant. You don't know like what kind of performance things people are on. So there are kind of like risks with establishing relationships in a work environment as an HR professional. But if you are, you're a grown up, hopefully that other person is a grown up. That sounds really weird. I didn't mean to say hopefully. I mean, they are going to be a grown up.
they're gonna treat it like a grown up. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I don't think as HR, it precludes us from having relationships if we want to. So if you're in a position and it's appropriate for you to kind of pursue this, then why not? But obviously, finding some way around the distraction is really important before it starts kind of affecting your work, and that's going to be different for different people, I think.
I wonder, have you ever had like anyone as like a HR person, have you ever had anyone come to you and be like, oh my God, I've got a crush on so and so in this department or in my department, or I've got a crush on my boss or something like that? Have
No
you ever
one's
had
ever
anyone come to you?
disclosed that to me. No, you hear the office gossip sometimes through managers, and you're like, oh, did you hear about who was, snogging who in the toilets at the Christmas party and all that kind of thing? And then you have to keep a straight face, and you're like, what, when the manager's like, what can we do about this? This is terrible, and you've got to kind of like,
Yeah.
what would you like to do? I've never had someone ask me for advice before about how they handle a crush in their workplace.
Mm.
No, that would
Well,
be a
now that
new
we've put
one.
it out there in the world, who knows? Maybe someone will come to you and be like, Emma, what do I
Maybe they will.
do? I love it. I love it. Okay. Right. Our next confession.
Great.
Well, actually, this is more like it's a bit of a confession and a question. So this one says, I work in HR and I'm struggling with keeping the balance between being empathetic towards employees' personal issues and maintaining professionalism. How do I navigate this line without crossing boundaries? Which kind of ties into what you were just saying, really.
Yeah, I find that's a really tough one. But I think because particularly when we are dealing with um, like tough human experiences, aren't we? Within
Mm,
HR, we can really be dealing with people at their most vulnerable. And I
mm,
think when you are most of the HR professionals that I come across are deeply caring. They want to do their best by people, and empathetic, and kind of might know things about someone's personal situation that makes them think they need to give more to that person. Say if someone's living by themselves or something like that. People really disclose very personal
mm.
things to you within HR, which is a very weird phenomenon when you're that person in HR, because you're
Of
like, it's
course.
literally my job title and you're bearing your soul. I always got weirded out by that a bit. But I presume when they're saying, without crossing professional boundaries, that this means like basically kind of keeping distance between, taking on the role that maybe a friend would or a family member.
Yeah.
Like
I
that.
think it's quite hard because when you're trying to be empathetic and you're trying to like put yourself in someone's shoes to understand their problem, but also
Yeah.
not take it on yourself either. Like
Yeah,
it's really hard.
it is really hard. And it sounds so easy just to say, well, just maintain a boundary then between, you know, that this person's emotions and your own. It's not that easy. It's
Yeah.
not possible. That there does need to be an awareness of your own capacity to take things on, though.
100%.
And that's why I think we often fall down as HR professionals, is because we're like, well, if I don't help this person, then who will? Without then having the resources to kind of say, this thing is really tough emotionally, and I therefore now need the space to go and vent or download or to get this out of my system.
Yeah.
Like we really do, I think, walk around with quite a lot of vicarious trauma as HR professionals, because we're taking this stuff on without having any of the training or the resources to then separate ourselves from it, or to release it, or to, you know, to let
Mm.
it go. So I think in answering that question, I think we're likely to be the kind of people who will do our best by people, and when we find them at their rawest, we're likely to then give as much as we can do. But
Mm.
I think to the professionalism has to be comes from a personal kind of self-awareness. Can I give to this person at this time? And actually, am I the right person to give to this person? You know, I want to care, but do I know do I have any awareness of what they're going through? Do I know how to signpost them
Mm.
to other areas? Am I really the right person to give them support at this time? Because sometimes just because you care doesn't mean that you are the right person
Oh,
to give
100%.
that support. I
Yeah.
think that needs to be a social media quote somewhere.
It really does. Like, I think that is such a good point and definitely needs to be emphasized, is that, like, you know, you can have all the best intention in the world, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can help.
No.
Yeah.
I think
Um,
sometimes we feel, well, you know, I'm clearly the only one in this business who's caring about people, so I have to be
mm,
the one to help. And again, that's not necessarily the truth, because it may be that there's someone external to your organisation that is better placed actually for you to signpost that person to get the support that they really need.
100%, 100%. It's part of why, like, I'm so, like, passionate about making sure that people have, like, workplace benefits such as, like, mental health
Yeah,
support. So, like, at the happiness index, we use care coins, and so that allows us a certain amount of, like, talking therapy every month.
amazing.
And I mean, I love my care coins. So, like, Kelly, big ups, I love her so much, she is literally a babe. um and I think having that external um sort of person to talk to about stuff that I would need to talk to a professional about
Yeah,
helps me with my relationship with my HR person at work, because we are friends, and, you know, we can still keep that friendship without it sort of being like, okay, you're, like, taking on all of my, like, crap as well.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly that. And you know, example that springs to my mind is a company that I worked with, and they actually recruited a psychotherapist during COVID to join their HR team, so an in-house psychotherapist,
Oh, that's
because
amazing.
they recognised the burden on their HR department at COVID. And she expressed to me she was so surprised, because as a psychotherapist you get taught how to set boundaries, so
Yeah.
you get taught all the stuff that we don't get taught as HR professionals. And she was having people approach her at like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and expecting a response. And she was saying, like, it's such an eye-opener to her as someone in kind of a talking therapy, that people didn't recognize that their HR department had boundaries too. They just were
Yeah.
like, you know, they're always available to me. They always have to answer. And again, that's not the truth. That might be the perception that's around, but I think it's our job as, like, for our own professional integrity, to say I can't be all things to all people at all times. It's just not. Um, that's just such an unrealistic expectation, and
100%.
anyone expecting that of you is just really quite unreasonable. So
Yeah, it is so unreasonable. That's absolutely wild. 9, 10 o'clock at night.
yes,
Oh my
but
gosh.
you know, I expect the people watching this will be like, yep, I have that,
Yeah,
because it
I can
happens.
imagine. Like, that's absolutely wild. I think it kind of linked back to that whole, you kind of, I think people tend to forget that HR people are people, because their job is to look after people. They're like, oh well, you're not people, you're HR people. Now
Yes,
people
yes,
so many
yes.
times doesn't feel real, but
If you see me speak, I will often use the joke of like, I once stood up and, oh, it was the truth actually. I once stood up and did a presentation, and I said, "Hi, I'm HR. I'm also known as Emma, but only at the weekends," because you lose your identity of
oh my
being a
god.
person. You're just your HR. With all respect to HR professionals, and I have been one of them, we forget we're people too. Like, we're kind of the worst for it
Yeah.
sometimes.
Oh gosh. Well, hopefully, hopefully, some people watching will sort of resonate and be like, oh, okay, actually, maybe I should put some boundaries in place. Or if you are someone who is able to do that, defo, drop some advice. Let us know how you do it.
Yes,
Because that kind
definitely.
of stuff is always very valuable. Um, but so the next confession that I've got here is a bit more of a serious one.
Okay.
Yeah.
More serious than burnout
Well,
and
I mean, that's
boundaries?
very serious. This one's a bit of a doozy.
Okay.
So this one says, I've been experiencing harassment from a
Oh,
member of staff.
crikey.
It's making me dread coming to work and affecting my
Yeah.
mental health. How can I address this situation while protecting my job?
You weren't joking about this one being more
No.
serious, were you? No, and gosh, I'm so sorry for the person who submitted that and that they're kind of experiencing that.
Yeah.
There's, I don't know what kind of harassment. I don't know whether that's verbal harassment, shouting at them, or whether it's sexual harassment or whatever. But obviously, none of that is okay, and none of that you should have to be experiencing when you go into work. Um, what what is so sad, but may be quite comforting to that person, is to know that they're not alone in experiencing that. It's not okay, by the way. um, but I speak to a lot of HR professionals who are experiencing um, verbal abuse quite regularly in really in senior positions, and with senior people in the room, and
That's
um,
awful.
it's it's not always from the source that you would expect it to be from. You might expect it from, like, people who are disgruntled about some term and condition that you have or whatever. You don't necessarily expect it, I think, sitting in a senior leadership team. You don't expect it from someone senior to you. But it happens a lot, and of course it will be impacting how you feel about going to work and making you not want to go into that environment.
100%.
How do you What was the question? How do you tackle it?
How can I address it while protecting my job? Which I guess, to be
Mm,
like, is quite a dilemma, because a lot of people, that's the thing that stops them from coming forward about harassment and things like that. Whatever
totally.
kind of harassment it is the fear of losing your job.
Yeah, 100%. And I've got to say, having been someone who's had to investigate cases of harassment before, you kind of see sometimes how the business close ranks
Yeah,
around it, and make it your problem, and you're the one who can't cope, and that kind of thing. Which is, yeah. And I'll share a personal experience of mine, right? So because I actually don't think that is a job that's worth protecting.
mm,
From my perspective, I don't think that that is a job that's worth protecting. But I was bullied in a role by a senior, well, by the most senior person in an organization. And at the time, I didn't feel like I could leave because we were getting married. I was getting married, and we were going through the process of buying a house. So, and I'd not been there long, and I was in my probation still. So I was like, it's bad enough that I'm in my probation, but I'm trying to get a mortgage. I can't then be out of work as well, and I can't leave, because then they'll be able to tell them that I'm in my notice period and I might not get my house that I want.
oh god, that's so stressful.
Yeah, it was. So to just, you know, I could be very flippant and say just leave, but that would not, you know, that wouldn't be honouring the fact that sometimes people don't feel that they can do that. And for me, that wasn't something that I could do in that role either. How do you address it? How do you take it on? I don't know the answer to that one, if I'm honest. Because I could say, you know, go through your grievance process, or, you know, try and talk to the person about how they're speaking to you and all that kind of stuff. I may be very cynical, but I've rarely seen that come to anything that's actually resolved a situation for people. So for me, my advice would turn to, if you have to protect that job, and that's somewhere that you have to be for a little while, then really dial up your self-care. Like, and I don't mean baths, I mean get yourself therapy. I mean, as much as you can, trying to detach yourself emotionally from the work that you're doing, and don't give as much of yourself to it. Like, be
100%.
the person that goes in, does what's expected of them, and comes home again.
Definitely.
Because again, I know that I ran myself around in circles trying to prove, well, I don't deserve this, and I'll show you, and it's not fair that you're going to treat me like this. It's not fair that I should be the one to leave. And all of that at the end of the day was really, really unhelpful to me, because they weren't going to change. Ultimately, it took like several years for it all to come out, and for any kind of like vindication to come for me.
Yeah.
But in the time, it was relying on my friends, it was relying on my family, it was feeling the emotions, you know, and not judging the emotions. I was having panic attacks before work and that kind of thing. Just knowing that that's when you're experiencing harassment, if it's that bad, your body's going to react, and that means you need to dial up that, dial up the care, dial up taking care of yourself
100%.
until you can leave, because I genuinely don't think that kind of job is worth protecting.
100%. Like, at the end of the day, it's nothing can be worth your physical or mental health. Like, it being that anxious makes you physically really unwell. And yeah, I mean, I'm immediately thinking to my mum, who was in a job that was awful. Like, the level of bullying that she got from the like managing director was horrendous.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen my mum so anxious or sad, or like just not herself. My mum's she's a very bubbly, very like funny, lively person, just a lot like you, Emma. And she's such good vibes, and then just to see what impact this one person was able to have on her, it was unreal. Fortunately, she's out of that situation now. She just was like, I actually can't take it anymore. She was like, I'm just gonna leave. But it's absolutely wild. And if anyone out there is like dealing with something like this, I can't recommend enough to keep a log of every incident that you can, with, you know, details. Who was there? Is anyone a witness? Has anyone else seen this? Is anyone else CC'd into this email that's a bit scathing? You know, with keep a log of those with like dates and times if you can as well. Like, it's all really useful, especially if you can then take it forward to like a union or a citizen's advice or something, like, you know, to get some help. Yeah.
Sad one.
Yeah, that is a very sad one. Okay, let's move to a slightly lighter one. But so this one is, I'm feeling overwhelmed with the administrative tasks in HR, leaving me with little time for strategic planning and employee development initiatives. How can I better manage my workload and prioritize my tasks?
There's two elements to that, I think. One is like systemizing. I get my teeth in. Are your processes good? Are they efficient? Like, do you have technology on your side? What is there that you could automate? Yeah, how can you make life easier with those things that are just processed and don't add any kind of value. And there's also a part of me that feels that sometimes we keep ourselves in that place of admin. I'm going to be controversial and be like, sometimes I think that's the stuff that we do because we can see the output of it straight away, because it meets someone's need immediately, because it's something that we can do easily, you know, and perhaps doesn't need as much I don't know, influencing, you know, whatever that the kind of more strategic elements involved. So that's me being a bit controversial. What's your take on that?
I I kind of agree, to be honest. Like, I think I am terrible with prioritization and like managing my workload for the most part, to be honest. I'm gonna hold my hands up and say that I use a task manager like app, because so I have ADHD, so prioritization is not my strong point. And being able to, it's the admin tasks that always do get left behind, because they're the things that don't bring me that like dopamine hit. So I don't tend to reach for them, but they are just as important. So I have to try and find ways to make myself want to do it. So I've started associating some of my admin tasks with treats. Like,
Nice.
much like training a puppy, I'm like I tell myself, right, okay, so if I do like these emails, then I get like this particular chocolate bar. And then if I do this task, then I get this particular, like I get like some drumstick squashies, because I've been a bit obsessed with those at the moment.
They're
But if I
so
have,
good.
yeah, honestly, I'm like, if I do this particular task, this top tier task, then I can use my fancy bath salts to them. Do you know what I mean?
Epic.
It's just stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's what keeps me motivated.
My friend told me about this. She called it dopamining.
Ooh.
Yeah, which it sounds a lot like what you're saying. So she says like she's also got ADHD, and she said to me that kind of like those tasks that are really important, she's like, I've got no hope in getting those things done. It's no good trying to tell me to do the most important things first, because I want to go where the fun is. I want like the dopamine hit. She said, so I've got to almost like farm dopamine, so that I've got some in reserves before I then try and tackle that thing. And then when I tackle that thing, I associate it with something that also brings me a dopamine hit. So, and I love that. I love that as a way of being anyway. Because like if you're going to do, we all have to do things we don't like doing, but we might as well make some fun out of it. So for me, it's, prioritizing the things that I don't want to do. I'll normally put on some nice like music that I really like doing, or have a bit of a dance beforehand or something like that.
Yeah, love
To like psych myself up for it. But there's that, so in response to that question of like, how do I stop doing the admin things and focus on the strategic things? Well, there's always going to be the admin parts to do with it. So automate as much of that as you can do, which I know is difficult when you also work in a company that doesn't want to invest in your systems. But there's so much, like one of my club members did a talk for us this week on AI and how that could improve things for
They're
us. So like
amazing.
explore that, you know, just that stuff, the admin stuff shouldn't be taking up brain space. Just like it's not important, doesn't add the value. And then so the second thing is like to check in with yourself and to question yourself about, if you're telling yourself that the admin work is the thing that's most important, is that really the truth? Or does that just feel comfortable? And if it's just coming from a comfort place, then like go do the strategic thing. There was something in the question around like prioritizing tasks and managing time, just as like potentially what is an entirely different conversation. I think we should try and move away from managing our time and move to managing our energy instead. So we can't expect ourselves to be linear and be able to achieve everything in the same way every day. So let's get to know our energy patterns. Are we better in the morning or in the afternoon? Do we do admin better in the morning compared to in the afternoon? Like, there's so many different nuances on how we like to work. The more we can understand that about ourselves and then tailor the work that we're doing to the energy that we have,
100%.
that just feels more productive and easier and just a nicer experience anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever heard of the spoon theory?
I've not heard of the spoon theory.
Spoon theory. So anyone watching, this is an excellent little like coping mechanism that is quite often used in like therapy, and especially with like neurodivergent people. But it's the idea that like you have a certain number of spoons in a day, and each spoon represents a task that you have to do. So for example, I might wake up and be like, right, I've got 10 spoons today. What are the things that really need doing today that I will use my 10 spoons on? And certain things might be more than one spoon. So say for example, like, I don't know, running a webinar and like doing all the admin that comes with that. That might be 2 spoons, because there's, you know, the hosting part and then also the admin part. So that might be 2 spoons, but so then I've only got 8 spoons. So then I've got to figure out what other 8 tasks are going to count in my spoons. And I then, once I've hit limit on spoons, that's it. I'm done.
Done. Yeah.
And I do that for work and for home life as well. So it's like easy as things like cleaning your room. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is one huge task. So
Yes.
break it down into a bunch of small tasks. So
Or
one
smaller
spoon.
teaspoons and then big
Yeah.
desserts. I love that.
Why not?
I like to ask, like at the end of my coaching sessions, I like to say, what is something that, or what are you committing to that is either going to make everything else easier or go away altogether? So then, you know, because, you know, we could in the HR context, we could say clearing my inbox, clearing the HR inbox is a spoon.
Yeah.
But what would actually be the most important thing to focus on would be creating an FAQ document so that people don't need to email you anymore. Like, and then that is the thing that's going to make all that other work go away.
Yeah.
And that's therefore the thing that you focus on. Because sometimes we can get reactive and kind of responding to things as they come in, but choose your spoons wisely. Second quote.
100%. If you've only got 10 spoons in a day, don't be wasting spoons.
Don't be wasting them.
Don't waste them.
They do always get lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mine.
And you know, in this scenario, you don't have a dishwasher. You're gonna have to hand wash all those spoons at the end of the day. Don't waste your spoon.
Don't waste them. I love it.
Okay, we've only got a couple more, but so this one is, I'm feeling burnt out and uninspired in my HR role. How can I reignite my passion for this field and like feel fulfilled in my work again?
Yes, that's such a so common.
Yeah, 100%.
And literally that's what I make my business doing now, is talking to women who feel just like that, who are like, I've been doing this my whole life, I don't love it anymore, I'm so sick of it, you know, but I don't know what else to do. And I always start with replenishment, because to me that's just an indicative of just like being worn down. When you're lacking in as I'm not very like ill, but we might be, but kind of just ground down of doing the same thing all the time. So I say it a lot, but yeah, replenishment, replenish your energy, start focusing on yourself. Are you getting your needs met? Do you eat when you need to? And that's not like you have to eat every single, 3 times a day, like the experts will tell you. Eat when you need to. Do you, even things like, I have people say that they don't even go to the toilet when they need to because they're in the middle of a piece of work. They'll like hold off going to the toilet. Like, so we're so disconnected from our bodies that we're like ignoring the signals just to go to the toilet, just to get this piece of work done, right? So that's like, sort that out for starters. Start focusing on yourself. replenishing yourself, building your energy back up, doing things that like look for joy, base your decisions around joy. So it's not even work related, but like, I don't know, choosing what you want for lunch. What's going to bring me the most joy? This like pizza or going to for Chinese? Like which one is going to make me the happiest? And then start reintroducing joy into your everyday activities. To give it a chance, to give yourself the freedom to start experiencing that again, to not be bogged down in like to-dos and all the things that we must get done in our work and personal life. So replenishment, and then also I would say like just understand your strengths and start playing to your strengths more often. So when do you feel the most alive in the work? When was the last time you felt really alive in the work that you do? What was it about that situation? Were you delivering training? Were you writing a policy? Like what was it? What were you doing that just felt really great? And therefore, what's that likely to mean about the skills and the strengths that you have? And then where can I start using those more often? Am I not getting to express my strengths in this job? Where can I look for maybe projects outside of my function that will allow me to play to my strengths? Because, you know, we're so often like trying to prove ourselves, trying to, you know, meet everyone's expectations, or, you know, what everyone wants around us. But we just kind of get out of touch with, what am I really good at? Why am I doing this? Like, why, what is it about me that's different as an HR professional, when there are so many HR professionals? Like, why am I special? Because everyone is, but we
100%.
just get out of touch with that and we don't necessarily play to that. So
Yeah, I
that
love
would be
that.
my starting point.
I love that. Everyone watching, just you got to find that thing that makes you special, that makes you feel special.
Yes.
That's really sweet. Yeah, I think it's really easy to kind of get to a point where you're like, okay, I've seen it all, I've done it all, I don't know what's next. Especially in the like world we live in at the moment, it's like everything is constantly changing, and there is so much access to like stuff for lack of better phrasing. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's so easy to feel stagnant if you're not constantly changing with it.
Yes.
So I guess, yeah, like you said, it's just remembering the bits that make you feel good, and that made you feel like, oh, I love this job.
Yeah.
I remember I learned that from Grey's Anatomy.
Oh.
Yeah, it was there was like an episode where like one of the doctors was like feeling really rubbish because they'd like lost a couple of patients, or I don't even remember what happened, but they were like, I just don't know if I love this job anymore, it's too much, I'm so like tired and burnt out. And one of the other doctors went and like took them over to one of the patients who'd like been reunited with their parents and was like on the mend and doing all right. And it was like, they were like, this is why you do this job, because days like that happen as well as the bad days. So yeah, watch Grey's Anatomy if you need a boost. But don't actually, because it is a tragic TV show in most ways.
Oh well.
But
I think there's something in that though, in like, particularly in a generalist role, when you're responsible for the employee relations side of things, you can feel, and maybe if you're in a standalone role and you're all things to all people, it can feel like everyone comes to you just with their problems, and you can get out of touch with the impact that you're actually having. So that's a really, really good point, to like also celebrate the contribution that you're having. Like what's different because you're there as well. Like where have you had a positive impact, and have you really acknowledged that? Because again, we jump from, I need to do this and I need to do that and there's all this other stuff to do, without really taking the time to go, you know, I did a really good thing there, this person is different because of me, and that kind of celebration piece is really important too.
100% recognition is so important, and like that kind of acknowledgement side of things as well. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we talk about it a lot in our like 8 neuroscience themes that we we use as our methodology. And like,
Yeah.
so two of the most key things in achieving happiness at work is like acknowledgement and like freedom. So, you know, those things all are so important to be able to achieve that. And I think, I don't know about you, but like, so for me, I keep a little like note in my phone and an album in my camera roll, where I keep like nice things that I've done and I've seen like the impact of it. So I'll take like screenshots of like an email. If someone sends me an email and they're like, oh, I had a really good time doing this, blah blah blah, or oh, the event was really good, or you know, this customer saw your post and thought it was fantastic. I keep a screenshot of all of those.
Yeah.
So that on days where I'm feeling really low energy and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do anything today. Or I start thinking, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? Which at 25, I'm regularly thinking. I just have a scroll through of that and I'm like, okay, cool. Actually, you know, there are people that appreciate what I'm doing, that are benefiting from it, and that feels good.
Yes. And what I love about that is that you're doing that for yourself.
Yeah.
So like, and again, in HR, you don't tend to get recognition. Sometimes people, when you've helped them through something really tough, will say thank you. It's very rare that you get genuine kind of like, I'm so happy that you just ran that redundancy process for us. Like you did a really good job. Like you don't get it because you're not dealing with things that make people happy a lot of the time. So to be able to create a system where you validate yourself without having to rely on other people to validate your contribution, that's like gold dust for me. That's like the magic kind of thing.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. But yeah, okay. Well, I've come down to the final confession.
Oh.
So this one is I'm struggling to handle conflicts between employees and it's affecting the overall team dynamics. How can I try to facilitate communication and resolve the conflicts while remaining constructive but also like peaceful?
And this is a tough one to answer without knowing the context. So like, is this within the HR department or are you trying to manage?
I believe this is someone coming to the HR department about a different team.
So we're getting asked the advice on how to manage that situation. I really want to be professional. I also want to just be like, come on, people. There's so much into this. You've got to create the space, and I've got like 2 minutes, but you've got to create the space for people to be able to talk constructively. I think actually as adults, generally, we don't really get told how to handle conflict well. And that's probably because we're human and we get defensive and we go into blame and shame and all of that kind of thing. There is a really great book that I'd recommend, which is called Crucial Conversations. And that kind of talks about our conflict style in conflict, or you know, what is our likely style in conflict. And what my advice would be to the person trying to manage that conflict is, well, you can't, because they're also grown-ups. So I think my advice would be around like set the boundaries for how you expect your team to interact with one another. You know, stamp on any kind of behavior that goes outside of those that framework that you set out for people. And if you are giving the opportunity for people to be constructive and to air their concerns, whether that's with each other or not, then there has to come a point where you're also like, just enough of this now. This isn't kind of constructive. Which makes me sound just like a bit of a cow, but I'm like, we're grown ups, like we can't. What do you want to? I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes it is like, I think we forget that, like, well, we forget that we are grown-ups, and it's like we revert back to this sort of toddler state, and then it's like it's up to someone to come up to you and be like, yeah, look, it's okay, you're having some big feelings.
Yeah.
It's okay, it's absolutely fine, but
Yeah.
those big feelings, we need to find a way to release those. That's not, you know, a conflict, like a, you know, a confrontation. It's just like
You sound exactly like me pretty much every morning with my daughter.
literally, I'm like, I got to a point where I was like, I remember in my old workplace, like there was like a few people in the team that were just like, constantly like, oh my god, back and forth. They were just like always getting on each other's nerves, and I was just like, right guys, if you're gonna act like toddlers, I'm gonna treat you like toddlers.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like do the whole, like, you know, like Miss Rachel, I'd like do the whole Miss Rachel voice and be like, right guys, let's talk this through.
Yeah.
You're
So,
having
yeah.
a big feeling, like,
Yeah. It's, I think there's yeah, if people are going to not like each other, then there's not much that you can do about
yeah,
that. You know, if you're, like I say, if you're setting the standards for how you want your team to interact, then great. It's then stamping on things when they don't meet those behavioural expectations, and also like just knowing that you can't solve everything for everyone. If people aren't going to like each other, you have very little control over that.
100%.
But what you do have is setting control over, is setting how they are, and minimizing the impact of that conflict on other people.
Definitely, definitely. Well, we've come to the end of our time, Emma. That's flown by.
It has.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun. It's such a wicked webinar. Oh, thank you so much. Someone sent in a comment in the question and answer part. Great webinar, love this. More please. Thank you, Emma, so much. Oh, that is so thank you. We appreciate that, and good to know that you'd like more of this kind of thing.
Yes, I agree.
Hell yeah. But yeah, thank you so much, Emma, for your time today and your wonderful insights, and just you in general, because you're great.
Oh, thank you. I'm so cringe and so cringy.
Like, oh no, I'm blushing. But yeah, and thank you everyone for watching. We hope you find this valuable. Let us know if you want us to do more of these, because I mean, I love this. This was great fun for me. So
me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah,
thank you so
amazing.
much.
Thank you everyone for coming.
See you soon.